of the federal election campaign.
Instead of putting the burden on workers, we are going to ask the ultra-rich to pay their fair shares.
And it's no surprise two of the federal leaders chose their first stop to be Toronto, where there are plenty of seats up for grabs. Plus,
anyone who comes into contact with patients, doesn't matter if they're healthcare staff, it's basically anyone who comes into the building really should be vaccinated.
more calls for mandatory vaccination. Mayors in the GTA and Hamilton today saying they welcome a potential move from the province to require all hospital and long-term care workers to get vaccinated. And
it's devastating anytime there's a big earthquake like this, but for it to be Haiti is particularly devastating.
Local humanitarian groups prepare to send aid to Haiti, while families continue to hold on to hope their loved ones are okay, following a large earthquake in the small island nation. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Well, today marked the first full day of a 36-day federal election campaign, and Toronto was the first official campaign stop for NDP leader Jagmeet Singh and Green Party leader Annamie Paul. And it's a safe bet it won't be the last time we see the party leaders in the city or surrounding areas. As Farah Morelli explains, several ridings in the GTA could be responsible for deciding the outcome of this election.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh began his day in Toronto's Greektown neighborhood, pledging to tax the wealthy.
We're saying really clearly a new Democrat government would make sure that the ultra-rich are paying their fair share.
I'm here to grow our party.
While Green Party leader Annamie Paul unveiled her party's climate policy. It's no surprise two federal leaders spent the first part of their full day of the campaign in Toronto, where there are plenty of seats up for grabs. Here in the GTA, there are 5 key ridings that could determine who forms government. In 2019, the Liberals took 4 of those 5 ridings before going on to secure a minority government, while the Conservatives clinched just 1. But some of those ridings really came down to the wire. In King Vaughan, the Liberal candidate won by just 911 votes. In Richmond Hill, an even tighter margin. Just 112 votes divided the Liberal and Conservative candidates. Today, many in that Richmond Hill riding said the election call came as a surprise, with the pandemic still very much in full swing.
With all that's happening, it's a waste of taxpayers' money, I feel. It could be put into something else, other things.
I don't really know what that means for how I'll vote in the election, but the pandemic was tough. I think all the governments at all levels did the best they could.
But with the campaign now in full swing, some already have their priorities.
What are sort of the issues that are important to you that you would vote on?
Definitely our response to climate change. A robust plan, something that we can create goals to aspire to, and maybe even tightening our deadline to these goals as well.
Though candidates say campaigning will require some more creativity this time around, the pandemic isn't stopping them from getting out.
So, I've been going door to door, and I will continue going door to door, ensuring that I make sure that I visit at least every home once, if not twice, over the next 36 days to spread the message so that Canadians know that the Conservative Party of Canada has their interests first at heart.
We're going to continue knocking on doors, talking about not only our record as the government, but also my record as an MP, and what I've done over the last 6 years.
Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Topping the list of key issues for voters will likely be the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. That issue has already triggered a debate on the campaign trail around mandatory vaccinations. Karina Roman has more.
More than 72% of eligible Canadians are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. When you count those under 12 who still can't get a vaccine, that falls to 63%. To protect school-aged children before school starts, more adults need to get vaccinated. The NDP is calling for mandatory vaccinations for federally regulated workers by Labor Day.
We want to set that deadline because kids are at risk. A lot of experts are saying if we don't do everything possible to get all adults vaccinated, it's really kids that are going to be at risk when the school year resumes.
Late last week, Ottawa announced that public servants must get vaccinated by as early as the end of September. Air, rail, and marine workers, as well as travelers, will face the same requirement by the end of October. so not as fast as the NDP would like. And the Liberals are not specific on what happens if employees say no.
Our goal is not to punish people. Our goal is to ensure that people are protected, but we will work with the unions to make sure that it's done as quickly as possible for as many people as possible, because we want to keep Canadians safe, and we know that vaccinations are the way through it.
What makes this an emerging wedge issue is the very different position of the Conservatives, who do not favor mandatory vaccination.
We do feel that Canadians have the right to make their own health care decisions, and we encourage people to get vaccinated, but we also have to make sure we have the tools to protect all Canadians from some people that will not be vaccinated. Rapid testing, masks, distancing, all the tools, but rapid testing in particular, on a daily basis can be very effective to make sure we reduce the spread.
The Bloc Québécois argues the jurisdiction over vaccinations in Quebec belongs to Quebec. Quebec is the only province so far to require vaccine passports to access non-essential services, a move to boost vaccination rates and avoid more lockdowns, and a move that will be watched closely as voters assess the various political positions on mandatory vaccinations. Karina Roman, CBC News, Ottawa.
For the fifth day in a row, Ontario is reporting more than 500 new COVID-19 cases. Meanwhile, vaccinations have slowed. Calls are increasing to make vaccinations mandatory in certain settings, while officials are continuing to try to convince more people to get immunized in order to stop a fourth wave from becoming worse. Lorena Redicott reports.
Toronto's mayor and medical officer visited a vaccination clinic at a mall while making the push for more people to get their shot. With vaccinations slowing, the mayor says the city will look at initiatives such as bringing back clinics at work sites.
Because it is younger working people who are the Torontonians who continue to have in the greatest number the lower levels of vaccination, working Torontonians. So we'll renew our focus on workplaces to try and reach them.
He says numbers show almost 99% of people hospitalized for COVID in the past 4 months were not fully vaccinated. In a release, Tory and other GTHA mayors welcomed the recent federal announcement to require vaccinations for federal employees and what they called a coming move by Ontario to require hospital and long-term care staff to get the shot. Tory was also asked about the possibility of mandatory vaccines for education workers.
I think that it follows if you are somebody that is going to be exposed, especially to young children, say under the age of 12, who as of this moment can't get vaccinated, that we should be taking every possible precaution.
Dr. Isaac Bogosh says requiring vaccinations for people in hospitals is the right move.
Anyone who comes into contact with patients, doesn't matter if they're healthcare staff, it's basically anyone who comes into the building really should be vaccinated. That is extremely important. We know that people can bring COVID into healthcare settings. These are the most vulnerable of the vulnerable.
The Premier took no questions today, though in a speech to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, encouraged more people to get their shot.
The reality remains, despite all our incredible progress, we're not done with COVID yet. This is a virus that will exploit any opportunity, any weakness in the system, to mutate and become even more lethal.
It's expected the Chief Medical Officer will once again also push for more vaccinations when he gives his latest update on COVID-19 tomorrow. Lorena Redicott, CBC News, Toronto.
A parent in York Region has been served an $880 fine for sending their child to daycare with COVID-19 symptoms. Health officials in the region wouldn't publicly name the facility the child attended, but Tiny Treasures Learning and Childcare Center in Vaughan is the only licensed facility listed on the region's website that's currently experiencing an outbreak. 15 children at the daycare have tested positive for COVID-19, plus one staff member. The parent was initially fined $770. An additional $110 was added for a victim surcharge fee. Meteorologist Nick Cerkovich joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Nick, such a beautiful weekend. Temperatures still very comfortable today, but that's going to change.
Hi, Kelda. Well, the story really is going to be about the humidity as we head through the next few days. Today, And actually, the last couple of days, some nice relief. But heading into midweek, we're looking at Humidex values that are going to be in the mid-30s, and that's sticking around for a while. We didn't see it today so much. Temperatures today were at 24 degrees. The Humidex making it feel like 28. That's pretty manageable, but again, that's going to change. And as that humidity comes in, we've got some showers and even some isolated thunderstorms to talk about. Overnight tonight, looking at showers tomorrow morning. The risk for showers and even thunderstorms for the morning commute. They generally clear out by about noon, and then again, this chance we're going to see some pop-up showers through the afternoon tomorrow. So a bit of a mixed bag there, but look at this. Temperatures up to 27 tomorrow. Humidex values, though, to 36, and that's actually sticking around for the next little while, in fact, the foreseeable future. We'll have your full forecast, including that hot, humid weather, coming up in just a bit. Kelda.
All right, thanks, Nick. Global Medic is partnering with the Regeneration Outreach community in Brampton to address food insecurity in the area.
It's been really great for them to help us, let us use their space, and we're able to pack food, and then we're also able to give them food to their clients.
Volunteers are repackaging 50-pound bags of food to be distributed to food banks and other agencies throughout the city. Global Medic is also offering youth employment opportunities through the partnership. They've hired 10 students to oversee packaging and production of the food. Well, now to the city's East End, where Toronto police are requesting the public's help in locating a missing 12-year-old girl. Tania Earl was last seen around 1:30 this morning near Dawes Road and Gower Street. Police describe her as 5 feet 6 inches tall and around 130 to 140 pounds. She has a medium build. Her hair is in short braids, and she was last seen wearing a short-sleeved navy blue blouse with thin vertical white stripes, black legging pants, and black sneakers with pink stripes. A command post has been set up in the area of Dawes Road and Park Vista near Victoria Park and Danforth. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. The Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan has seen thousands taking desperate steps to flee the country. At least 7 people plunged to their deaths as they tried to cling to a U.S. military jet as it took off from the airport in Kabul. Hundreds of Afghans rushed the plane as it moved down the runway. Another video shows crowds trying to board another plane waiting to take off. The Western-backed government fell shortly after President Ashraf Ghani fled the country. It took the insurgents less than a fortnight to reach the capital, with any resistance collapsing or withdrawing quickly. The Taliban's return to power effectively ends the 2-decade campaign by the U.S. and its allies, including the UK and Canada, to rebuild Afghanistan. It also signals a likely return to its oppressive style of governing and a sharp reversal to advances made in Afghan women's rights. As the situation grows more dire, people here in Toronto are also growing increasingly worried for their loved ones stuck in the country. Some have already lost family members. And as Dale Manukduk reports, advocates are calling on the federal government to intervene.
We've all seen those videos of people trying to hang on to planes.
Images from Kabul flooding social media have left Afghans in Toronto horrified, having to witness the desperation.
They don't want to live in a country where their human rights will be restricted and where their future is unclear and is bleak.
Nasiri says her first cousin was killed in an explosion yesterday. He was a father of 6.
His death was a direct result of decisions made at the international level in the past few months that has now resulted in the country being in pure chaos.
While everyone is fearful of the latest takeover, there's an extra concern for women and children.
I have a friend of mine who was telling me how her cousin was saying that we have poison at home. We would rather have that first than to end up in these people's hands.
Speaking at a vaccine clinic today, Mayor John Tory took time to acknowledge the situation.
The Government of Canada is working very hard to help Afghanis who helped Canada. And I think that is something that most Canadians would heartily agree with.
Farouz Mohammed is a former interpreter who assisted the Canadian Armed Forces in Afghanistan. He says the Taliban killed his father-in-law in 2018. His parents and siblings still live back home.
We have worked hard, shoulder by shoulder with them, we have put our families at risk, our lives at risk by supporting them.
The Canadian government has pledged to resettle 20,000 vulnerable Afghans threatened by the Taliban and forced to flee Afghanistan. Advocates say it's not enough.
Humanitarian aid. So Canada has already announced some aid, but Afghanistan is in a humanitarian crisis. This is acknowledged by the United Nations. And so Canada can play a role by providing funding and support to partners on the ground.
They're looking for basic necessities such as food, shelter, clothing, baby food, diapers and all that.
A GoFundMe campaign launched by Children Without Borders and Ajax has raised over $100,000. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
2 days after a deadly earthquake, the situation in Haiti is likely to get more desperate because of heavy rains from Tropical Depression Grace. Potential flooding and mudslides are expected to make the search for quake survivors more challenging. Saturday's 7.2 magnitude quake was centered about 125 kilometers west of Port-au-Prince. More than 1,400 people are known to have died so far. Thousands of people are injured. Many others are homeless. Local hospitals are overwhelmed with a large stream of victims. Patients are spilling into the corridors, stairwells, and even outside. Last month, Haiti, already dealing with escalating gang violence, was thrown into further political turmoil by the assassination of its president. And in the midst of the pandemic, the Caribbean nation of more than 11 million people has only received 500,000 vaccine doses. With rescuers still searching for survivors on the ground in Haiti, here in the GTA, local aid groups are gearing up to deliver what's needed. As Dan Takema reports, those with loved ones back home are holding on to the only thing they have now, hope.
There is no word and then to explain the suffering, the misery of the people at the moment.
Emmy Clay Fontaine's family is in Haiti, and so far he's only been able to speak with one brother, so he's not sure if his siblings, relatives, and friends are okay. The magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck the country on Saturday, and as rescuers race to dig out survivors in the rubble, local aid groups are organizing efforts to help.
It's devastating anytime there's a big earthquake like this, but for it to be Haiti is particularly devastating.
Shelterbox Disaster Relief was on the ground after the earthquake in 2010, and again when Hurricane Matthew struck 6 years later. Right now, the organization is working to get a sense of what Haitians need.
So far, 3,000 families have completely lost their homes, and about 5,000 other homes are partially destroyed. We expect those numbers to go up significantly in the coming days.
Global Medic, which provides emergency response, is also preparing to send water purification, food, and field hospitals if needed.
People are stunned by this crisis. People have a lot of needs there, and they're all going to be the basics from, food to clean drinking water to shelter, and we've got to help the people that are still alive.
We do have only one major hospital.
Fontaine says the only hospital in the city where his family lives is overcrowded. He's hopeful Canadians will help with the recovery. And while he may be far from his loved ones, he still feels a strong bond.
Physically, I am separated from them, but mentally, I am connected to them. Their soul, their pain, as well our pain here in Canada. So we share the soul. We are here in solidarity with them to support them.
There could be more devastation to come as Tropical Depression Grace bears down. Dan Takema, CBC News, Toronto.
Partly cloudy this evening. There were some light showers earlier, but all in all, a pretty nice day. Currently, a comfortable 22 degrees in downtown Toronto. Let's go back to Nick now. Nick, best enjoy it before it gets muggy again.
Well, Kelda, as we said earlier on, it's the humidity that's really going to be the story for the next few days. And we've got a bit of a mixed bag in terms of precipitation as well. So we'll get to all of that coming up in your forecast. It shows up in our weather headlines. There are scattered showers and thunderstorms for tonight and actually for the next few days. Humidity rising and really no relief in sight from that as we look to the long-range forecast. In terms of the precipitation, it kind of plays out like this. Showers and thunderstorms tonight, mostly scattered though, and then sort of breaks up toward the noon hour tomorrow. But if we get some hints of sunshine in particular, we're going to see some showers and thunderstorms developing again in the afternoon, particularly sort of north of the GTA. It falls kind of along the lake breeze here. So that kind of gets picked up right there. And same story into Wednesday as well. So not everybody's going to see it, but if we do, it's likely to pop up along this lake breeze sort of front that we get over the next couple of days. That's particularly true when we get sunny breaks. Overnight tonight, look for showers to dissipate in most parts of southwestern Ontario, though still the risk of some isolated showers in the forecast. Same story for tomorrow as well. Southwestern Ontario not seeing as much in the way of rainfall for tomorrow, about a 40% chance. Highs to 29 degrees, humidex values to about 37 in southwestern Ontario. The Golden Horseshoe, similar forecast, although a little bit more in the way of rainfall tonight and tomorrow. That rainfall pushes through. Temperatures tonight around 19 degrees. Tomorrow we've got isolated thunderstorms, so not an all-day washout event, and perhaps some won't even see the showers, but generally speaking, scattered thunderstorms across the region. Highs to 26, 27 degrees, humidex values to 36, and it sticks around for the next few days. Now, there's a look at your temperatures. On and off showers and likely some thunderstorms in there as well. But for the foreseeable future, we're looking at humidex values all the way to next weekend of 35 plus. Kelda.
Wow. Thanks, Nick. Toronto Raptors head coach Nick Nurse is keeping his second gig as coach of Canada's senior men's national basketball team. Canada Basketball announced they have signed Nurse to a multi-year contract extension that will run through the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Nurse was named head coach of the team in June 2019. His leadership nearly propelled the team to a Tokyo 2020 berth. The men haven't qualified for an Olympic spot since 2000 in Sydney. And the Vancouver Aquarium reopened today after being closed for more than a year. The aquarium shut its doors in March 2020 due to COVID-19 and then ran into financial trouble. In April, former owner Oceanwise sold the popular attraction to an American-based tourist company. The aquarium is welcoming back guests with a 4D theater and a revamped marine mammal rescue exhibit. And that is our show for you tonight. Chris Glover has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.